So I'm going to make this short and quick. So one of the most common things that I've noticed when it comes to choosing your default program, especially as an intermediate, is not emphasizing certain muscle groups over the others. And especially if you've seen a lot of progress, if you've been working out for at least 2 to 3 years, you will notice that your progress has pretty much halted, and you run the standard push pull leg 6 days a week, or even push pull leg upper lower, whatever it is, a very generic split, but without emphasizing any specific muscle group. The problem with that approach is that um, you will simply halt, and you won't be tailoring your own program based on your own needs. So for example, let's say you have 2 push sessions in 1 week. The first one you emphasize chest, followed by shoulder, and in the second one you do the opposite. However, you will notice that based on your training history, genetics, certain muscle groups will grow a lot faster than the others, and so simply you'll have to emphasize that muscle group, maybe add in a few more sets, uh, maybe deprioritize certain let's say your chest. So for in my case, I've always started with chest, both the sessions, followed by shoulder, and shoulder used to be one of my um, lagging part, at least on a relative basis, which I've managed to bring up in the past only 3 to 4 months. Again, these are all relative. This doesn't mean that you'll end up becoming like someone who's enhanced, or your typical influencer. So the point I'm trying to make is that you must deprioritize your strengths, at least at some point, if you want to maximize your genetic potential. And one common pitfall, one common, I would say, mental trap that I've found myself falling into is kind of thinking that my muscle will regress. And it's kind of a part of maturing in the gym. It's almost like a metric by which you can gauge whether or not you've sufficiently matured overall in life, and in gym, is that whether or not you're able to sort of create a space between your own physique and your own mental peace. The point is that if you deprioritize a muscle group, if you are at the elite level, it might regress, but it'll only be for a short while. So if you start with let's say you prioritize your smaller muscle group, your weaker muscle group, let's assume your shoulder is a lagging body part, and you decide to sort of do a bit of, let's say, flies, or go a little bit easier for a few months and really push your shoulder hypertrophy work, your muscles will really grow back. If you switch back to the original program where you are sort of running a normalized push-pull leg session. So the point I'm trying to make is that this isn't a very detailed video. If you really want a template based on your own requirements, comment your current workout template or your workout program, and I might help you modify that based on your weak parts. So drop me a comment below, and I'll get back to you. Hope this video was helpful. Like this video, comment, and stay tuned for more. Thank you. So another point that I forgot to mention is that certain muscle groups requires a slightly more frequency and less volume per session approach. For example, your shoulder and tricep responds really well to higher frequency. So when I first started working out, I'd noticed that whenever I'd go too, um, I'd do too many sets or too many exercises for the triceps. After a while, there'll be this sort of nagging inflammation in my elbow joint, which would kind of set me back in the long run, and I'd have this lingering pain for many years because I'd ignore the first signs, and just sort of just go through the pain basically. But for these push joints, joint recovery is also a very important factor that is um, that needs to be taken into consideration. Unlike your pull muscle groups, which are quite resilient to stress, and so you can either use a high frequency approach, or you can periodize. So in one session maybe you focus on the 12s more, 12 repetitions, 10 to 12, and in another you can focus on the 5 to 8. That way you auto regulate your total volume and recovery, and you sort of stimulate both the strength and hypertrophy aspects, because at the end of the day the line is quite blurry, especially in the 5 to 8 and 8 to 12 range. And this is a very this is common knowledge in powerlifting circles and strength program, but it is uh, rarely spoken, at least on a relative basis, in hypertrophy and bodybuilding circles. So this is a trick that I have used, and it has helped me bring up my own lagging muscle groups.